My fiancée gave my sports car to her first love. Then she made a post on Instagram with the caption, "Happy 28th birthday to my favorite boy." The comments were flooded with envy and well wishes. Everyone was praising the sugar mama for her generosity, saying she and her boy toy were a perfect match. So I posted a picture of the car's title and the police report receipt in the comments. I wrote, "Sorry to burst your bubble, but that's my car." And yes, the police have been notified. My comment was quickly upvoted to the top. People were stunned. They clicked on my profile and saw all the posts about my relationship. My girlfriend was, in fact, the supposed sugar mama, and we were even engaged. The post blew up, and the tide of public opinion turned completely in my favor. So it's not a sugar mama, it's a sugar daddy. This is so dramatic. You mean she gave her fiancé's car to her boy toy? The nerve. What a tramp. She deserves that scumbag. Gross. The tracking app on my phone showed my sports car speeding down the highway. Sarah and Ethan were already out for a joyride. The happy couple was too busy being affectionate to pay any attention to the online comments. They were probably convinced their epic love story had moved the world. I couldn't wait to see the looks on their faces when they realized they were being dragged online. Not long after I left the police station, I got a furious call from Sarah. "Did you call the cops on me?" They pulled me over on the freeway. Sarah was screaming her head off, and I held the phone away from my ear in disgust. I replied in a casual, mocking tone, "I sure did. It's my car. What's wrong with calling the police on a thief?" Sarah sounded like she was about to have an aneurysm. She had waited until I was at the office and couldn't pick up the car myself. Then she stole my driver's license, went to the dealership, and picked up my new sports car just to show off. "I was just celebrating Ethan's birthday. Do you have to make such a huge deal out of it?" she shrieked. "I've never met a man as petty as you. You're so pretentious and cheap. You have plenty of cars anyway. So what if I give one to Ethan? We're about to get married, for God's sake. Are you really afraid I'm going to run off with him? Marriage?" That actually made me laugh out loud. Even now, Sarah really thought I would come crawling back, begging her to marry me. I had overlooked her shady relationship with Ethan in the past, but posting it online for the world to see was the ultimate humiliation. If I didn't dump her, I'd be letting down all the people online who were defending me. "Well, since you brought it up, I might as well tell you the wedding in 2 days is canceled," I said calmly. "We're breaking up, and I'm the one ending it." Sarah was silent for a moment, the words not sinking in. Then she launched into another tirade. "Daniel, are you insane? This just proves you'll never be as thoughtful and caring as Ethan. Fine, cancel it, but don't come crawling back to me with an apology. I won't even consider forgiving you for less than $2 million. I clicked my tongue in annoyance and hung up. I could just imagine Sarah screaming into a dead phone, which probably made her even more furious. She changed her Instagram settings to only allow comments from friends. Even with the intense backlash, she refused to delete the post. Instead, she meticulously deleted every negative comment, leaving only the original ones that wished her and her boy toy a lifetime of happiness. It was a blatant act of defiance aimed at me. But honestly, who cared anymore? After work, I took my buddies out to a bar in downtown Austin, and we partied all night. I hadn't let loose like that in 3 years. After I started dating Sarah, she was always insecure. She thought that because I came from money, I'd be out partying and attracting other women. The truth is, I only had eyes for her and always kept to myself. The next morning, I woke up to a flood of voice messages on iMessage from Sarah. "Baby, I was wrong. Please, will you forgive me? People are about to dox me. You need to help me clear this up right now. Tell everyone Ethan is like a brother to me, that our relationship is completely platonic." When I didn't respond, Sarah dropped the act. "I already said I was sorry. What more do you want? Don't push it, Daniel. This getting ugly isn't good for either of us, so just fix this." "Oh, right. Thanks for the reminder. I'd almost forgotten to inform our friends and family that the wedding was off. The wedding date was just days away, and the flights and hotel bookings were non-refundable. I ignored Sarah and posted directly on my Facebook page. "To all the Millers, feel free to come for the free food and drinks tomorrow. All members of the Thompson family are not welcome." Immediately, my phone blew up with calls and texts from friends and relatives asking what was going on. Sarah's parents, in particular, launched a video call and started yelling at me without even asking for my side of the story. "Is this how your parents raised you? You're a grown man acting like a spoiled child," her father bellowed. "I'm ordering you to get on the family group chat right now and apologize to Sarah in front of all the elders, and you will give every relative a $50,000 gift." Only then will we consider this matter closed." The two of them just kept squawking at me. I cut them off with a cold laugh. "Oh, this is far from over. Sarah didn't just steal my car for him. She's also been getting hotel rooms with her boy toy at my family's hotels, staying in the presidential suite, no less." On the screen, a guilty look flashed across Mr. Thompson's face. So they knew about their daughter's sordid affair with Ethan all along. The entire family, from top to bottom, had been lying to me. Those ungrateful old bastards. They conveniently forgot who flew in the best specialists from Europe to treat them. I covered all their medical bills and even hired 4 full-time nurses to look after them. They didn't have a single shred of gratitude, yet they still found ways to criticize me. "Ethan is like a brother to Sarah," Mr. Thompson insisted. "Once you two are married, he'll be your brother-in-law too. There's no need to be so formal with family." Mr. Thompson put on a stern face, lecturing me from on high. I feigned boredom and cleaned out my ear. "That sounds nice and all, but are he and Sarah actually related by blood?" They were suddenly speechless. "Childhood sweethearts would be a more accurate description, wouldn't it? Regardless, you cannot cancel the wedding. You're the man. You should be more accommodating to Sarah." I hung up, sent them a text demanding the return of the $5 million dowry within 48 hours, and then blocked their numbers to avoid the inevitable angry essays they'd send. They never replied about the money, of course, but I had plenty of ways to make that family pay up. That afternoon, I drove over to the house in Beverly Hills. My fingerprint wouldn't unlock the door, which was strange. After I knocked for a while, Mrs. Thompson finally opened the door, shuffling in her slippers. She peeked out through the crack, giving me a suspicious look from head to toe. She hesitated, clearly not planning on letting me inside. "Who deleted my fingerprint from the scanner and changed the keypad code?" I demanded. Mrs. Thompson stayed silent, so I pushed the door open. 3 people were sitting in the enormous living room. Mr. Thompson was smoking a cigar. Sarah shot me a dirty look, and next to her sat a very smug-looking Ethan. "See," Sarah said, a triumphant smirk on her face. "I told you he'd come crawling back. There was nothing to worry about." Mr. Thompson glanced behind me, saw I was empty-handed, and grunted in disapproval. "Is this how you show up to apologize? Where are the gifts?" I used to show up loaded with shopping bags. Mr. Thompson would always act unimpressed, criticizing my choice of wine or the brand of cigars. He complained, but he was always the first to grab stuff. Mrs. Thompson added her own sarcastic comment. "Such poor manners. No wonder you can't compete with Ethan. Look at him. He never shows up empty-handed. He has so much more class than you." The coffee table was covered in gifts. Ethan puffed out his chest proudly, giving me a taunting look while his hand, resting on Sarah's waist, moved around shamelessly. Ethan visits them one time, and suddenly he's the golden boy. I covered my nose and wrinkled my brow, speaking just loud enough for everyone to hear. "Ugh, the smell of cheap cigars in here is giving me a headache." At my words, Mr. Thompson started coughing, and Ethan's face froze in embarrassment. You'd think after 3 years of me sucking up to them, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson would have developed some taste. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell that the gifts from Ethan were almost all knockoffs. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson were already in poor health. Who knows what kind of damage those cheap supplements could do? It's one thing for them not to know better, but Ethan clearly knew they were fakes and bought them just to kiss up. The cigars and whiskey he posted on his own Facebook were all top shelf. So much for being a devoted son. "I've already told our relatives the wedding is back on for tomorrow," Mr. Thompson declared. "You will go to the bank, withdraw cash, and hand out apology gifts to them in person. You need to do some serious self-reflection. Do you think this is acceptable behavior for a grown man who can't control his emotions?" Mr. Thompson changed the subject, pointing his finger at me like he owned the world. He was truly delusional. "And since Ethan is here, you will acknowledge him as your brother, in front of me and his mother. You will promise to never again interfere in his relationship with Sarah." That statement was so absurd I actually laughed out loud. Did he really think his daughter was such a catch that I'd be lining up to be her cuckold? Sarah glared at me. "Daniel, what's so funny? I'm giving you an out. You should take it. I'm willing to forget what happened this morning." Ethan added with fake sincerity. "Daniel, man," I talked her down. "Sarah's even agreed to go with you to get the marriage license." In the past, as humiliating as that sounded, I would have plastered on a smile, done anything to please Sarah, and immediately driven her to the courthouse. Before I proposed, Sarah had insisted we have the big wedding first and get legally married later. Now I finally understood her hesitation. Sarah announced our engagement, hoping it would lure Ethan back from overseas. They were childhood sweethearts with over a decade of history. Their contact ended when Ethan's parents' business went bankrupt and the whole family moved to Europe to escape their debts. But Sarah never truly got over her first love. So Sarah spent her time reminiscing about him on a private account, while simultaneously leading me on. I was completely in the dark and fell hopelessly in love with her. Even though my parents were firmly against our marriage, I was determined to make her my wife. As Sarah had hoped, Ethan took the bait and rushed back from Europe. The first night they reunited, she ignored my texts all evening. They picked up right where they left off, without a single thought for me. Her fiancé. Thank God, we never signed the marriage license. It saved me from a messy divorce. I sat down in an armchair and casually glanced at my Rolex. Ethan's eyes lit up with a mixture of envy and jealousy. "This is my house," I announced. "I want you all to pack your things and be out by tonight. The lawyer and real estate agent I hired will be here shortly." As soon as I finished speaking, the color drained from their faces. "You promised this house would be mine. You have no right to sell it." Sarah shot up from her seat, crossing her arms and pacing furiously. "I promised to give it to you on the condition that we got married." "Well, I don't want to get married anymore. And it's not just the house. I'm taking back the car and the $5 million dowry as well." I shrugged. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson exchanged a look, then started their routine. "Daniel, marriage is a serious commitment, not a game," Mr. Thompson began. "Plenty of men would love to be with Sarah. You're lucky to have her, and you should learn to appreciate that." His tone softened, but his eyes were full of shrewd calculation. "Our Sarah has given you 3 years of her life. How many 3 years does a young woman have? You can't just decide not to marry her." "Absolutely not," Mrs. Thompson shouted, conveniently ignoring the fact that her daughter had been cheating on me. Ethan, watching from the sidelines, looked momentarily worried. "Daniel, you have to be a man of your word." "Knock, knock." I calmly walked over and opened the door for my lawyer and the real estate agent, and we chatted for a moment. Ethan quickly pulled Sarah aside and whispered, "He's just playing hard to get. He's trying to get a reaction out of you." I have excellent hearing, so I heard every word. After Ethan's little speech, Sarah's anxiety vanished, replaced by her usual look of smug confidence. Please. I know him," she scoffed. "He's just trying to get my attention. The more I act like I care, the more arrogant he'll get." Mr. Thompson also regained his composure, giving Sarah a knowing look as they both waited for me to fold. "Hey, are you two done?" Sarah said, walking over to interrupt us. "You must be Ms. Thompson," my lawyer, Mr. Davis, said, extending his hand. Sarah slapped it away. "Cut the act," she snapped. "Daniel, are these actors you hired?" The suit almost makes him look legitimate. She sized Mr. Davis up, and he just looked confused. "Fine, I apologize. I'll even come home with you tonight," Sarah said, magnanimously linking her arm with mine as if she were offering me the deal of a lifetime. She turned to the two men. "There's nothing for you here. You can leave now." When I remained silent, the agent continued setting up his camera, and Mr. Davis pulled out a business card. "Ms. Thompson, my name is Michael Davis from Sterling and Associates. Mr. Miller has retained me to handle all matters regarding your property disputes." Sterling and Associates was one of the top law firms in the state. Sarah didn't even glance at the card, but Ethan snatched it and examined it closely. Finally, he muttered, "It's definitely a fake." Sarah scoffed. "You hear that? Are you guys done with your little performance?" Mr. Davis shot me a sympathetic look, and I just shrugged. I couldn't believe how blind I had been. "Believe what you want. You can look up Mr. Davis online," I said. "And don't say I didn't warn you. You should start packing. The agent will be showing the house to potential buyers very soon." The older generation really does know best. After my parents met Sarah just once, they warned me she wasn't the innocent girl she pretended to be. Around that time, Sarah was constantly begging me to buy her a house. I was about to give in, but my parents put their foot down. "You're not even married, and she's already made you responsible for her parents. She's clearly using you," my dad said. "We can let the medical bills slide, but you're absolutely not putting a house in her name. Not until you're legally married, or I'll freeze all your accounts." So I bought the house in the best part of town myself. When Sarah saw the deed and realized it was in my name, not hers, she sulked for a week. "Don't worry," I told her. "As soon as we're married, I'll put your name on it." It took a month of buying her designer bags and jewelry to finally get her to smile again. I never imagined she would turn around, sell the gifts I bought her, and use the money to buy designer clothes for Ethan. I only found out because my guy at the boutique sent me a text telling me my fiancé was in the store with some other guy. That's when I finally realized Ethan was back in the country. Mr. Davis was incredibly efficient. He called a moving company, and by that evening, the entire Thompson family was gone, leaving the house in disgrace. All that was left was getting my $5 million back. On the day the wedding was supposed to happen, all the Millers gathered at the venue. We ate, we drank, and we had a great time. The Thompsons and their relatives were stopped at the door by security. They stood outside, furiously calling Sarah's parents. They had all traveled from out of state, expecting to profit from their connection to a rich son-in-law and go home with fat envelopes of cash. Instead, the wedding was off, there was no money, and they weren't even allowed in for a free meal. They took all their frustration out on Sarah's parents. Suddenly, the ballroom doors swung open. A woman in a full wedding gown, holding a bouquet, started walking down the aisle. The room went silent, and guests started whispering among themselves. "What's going on? I thought they broke up. What is this? Is she trying to win him back in public?" I heard her family was completely shameless. That's why Daniel called it off. It was Sarah, uninvited, in perfect makeup, ignoring all the stares. She held her head high and walked straight toward me. I set down my glass and watched her approach with cold eyes. "Daniel, I'm ready to marry you," she said, her voice full of emotion, forcing a gentle smile. But her shifting eyes gave away her true feelings. In front of everyone, she was trying to corner me, forcing me to take her back publicly. If I refused, I would look like the bad guy. "Do you really have to make this so ugly?" I said coldly. The smile never left her face as she leaned in close to me. She whispered in my ear, "I know you won't refuse me. You're just jealous. You still love me, don't you? After this ceremony, we'll go get the license, and I'll be yours forever." I took a step back, creating a clear distance between us. "Sarah, we're over. I don't love you anymore." At that moment, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, now changed into a suit and a formal dress, rushed over. Mr. Thompson forced a benevolent smile. "Son-in-law, you've had a bit too much to drink. You're just talking nonsense. Don't mind him, everyone." Mrs. Thompson quickly agreed, her hands fidgeting nervously. It was amazing how much nicer they were me now that the house was no longer theirs. "The guests outside are waiting. We should let them in," Mr. Thompson said, pretending to ask for my permission while his grip on my arm tightened. The threat was clear. "Fine," I said. "Let them all in." Mr. and Mrs. Thompson's faces lit up with relief. If they wanted a bigger show, I was more than happy to give them one. I had tried to give Sarah a way to save face. I hadn't broadcast the details of her cheating to everyone. Only a few close friends knew the real story. For everyone else, the official reason was that we had grown apart. The Thompson clan swarmed into the hall, chattering loudly and pocketing the complimentary cigars from the tables. Sarah leaned in and whispered to me, "You knew I'd come, didn't you? You have the apology gifts ready, right?" She was so smug, absolutely certain I couldn't live without her. She tried to pull me along to make a toast to the elders, but I refused to move. The lights dimmed, plunging the room into darkness. My friend at the projector booth gave me a thumbs up, and a video started playing on the large screen behind the stage. I always have a backup plan. As the scenes in the video changed, the color drained from Sarah's face. It was a montage of her romantic dates with Ethan. There were photos of them hugging outside hotels, videos of them dining in fancy restaurants, and even a clip of them reenacting the Titanic scene on a yacht. What a happy couple. Mr. Thompson was utterly humiliated. "Who's playing this?" he roared. "Turn it off. Turn it off now." The room erupted in murmurs from both families, and Mrs. Thompson covered her face with a napkin in shame. Sarah was so furious she instinctively tried to slap me, but I caught her wrist. "Those are photoshopped," she screamed, struggling against my grip. "The video is a deep fake. Daniel, you're slandering me. I'm going to sue you." Her defense was weak, but her eyes burned with pure hatred. "Go ahead, sue me," I said calmly. "The police can easily verify if the footage is authentic." Some of the guests started encouraging her to call 911, but Sarah hesitated. The truth was plain to see. My entire family was behind me, and even some of her own relatives were now looking at her with disgust. Standing there in her white wedding dress, Sarah looked like a complete joke. She was never worthy of being my bride. "But my heart belongs to you. Can't you forgive me just this once?" Sarah said through clenched teeth. Tears welled in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She hated my guts. Even her tears were fake. I looked at her without emotion and said, "No. If you're so sincere about getting back together, where were you last night?" "Last night, Sarah repeated, her mind racing. She suddenly remembered. She and Ethan had been at a club until dawn. Then they got a nearby hotel room where they plotted how to win me back today. This whole scene was their brilliant idea. I only knew because I saw the charge on the supplementary credit card I gave her, which I immediately canceled. Cat got your tongue? I sneered. If you can't answer, then get the hell out of my sight. Sarah froze as if she'd been struck by lightning. You heard him, Sarah. Let's go. A voice boomed from the crowd. If he won't marry you, I will. Ethan appeared like a knight in shining armor, grabbing Sarah's hand and pulling her through the chaotic crowd. Sarah, instantly moved by his gesture, dramatically ripped off her veil and stormed out with him. Over her shoulder, she yelled, Daniel, you'll regret this. How dramatic. How rebellious. I almost wanted to applaud their epic, passionate love story. In just 2 days, internet sleuths had dug up every last detail about the sugar mama and her boy toy. The comments on all of Sarah and Ethan's old lovey-dovey videos were filled with people calling them scumbags. She couldn't delete the comments fast enough, so Sarah made a new post to defend herself, attaching a faded childhood photo of the two of them. We've known each other for over 20 years. I've always thought of him as a little brother. So, is it really a big deal to call him my favorite boy? The internet was not buying it. If he's just your little brother, why did you like all the comments wishing you two a long and happy life together? Feels so bad for the fiancée. Spent all that money on a gold digger just to be her second choice. Hey everyone, look at this picture someone just posted. The runaway bride and her hero. Look familiar. Sarah's explanation backfired, making the online backlash even worse. Then, a hotel employee who was there gave a detailed, dramatic account of the whole fiasco, confirming for everyone that she had been cheating. My own page was flooded with new followers, all praising me. He said the wedding was off, and he meant it. Love that for him. So glad you're not one of those guys blinded by love. This is so satisfying. Plenty of fish in the sea, handsome. How about you look over here? I was happily scrolling through the comments when I heard a knock. Thinking it was my food delivery, I opened the door without a second thought. It was Sarah. My good mood vanished instantly. She was wearing a face mask and a baseball cap, but I could see her eyes were red and swollen from crying as she stared at me pitifully. Daniel, I know I was wrong, she whispered. The next second, she threw her arms around my neck and started sobbing, her voice choked with self-pity. I'll stay away from Ethan from now on, I promise. Please don't be mad at me anymore, okay? Let go of me, Sarah. No. She just held on tighter. I finally managed to pry her off me, half annoyed and half amused. Seriously? Even after all this, you're still living in a fantasy world. I've already filed a lawsuit. You should be getting served with papers soon. I want the dowry back, and I want every penny you spent on Ethan. Seeing I was completely unmoved, Sarah stood there helplessly, twisting the hem of her dress. All her previous arrogance was gone. Why are you still wearing the engagement ring I gave you? I asked. Hasn't Ethan proposed yet? As I spoke, I took her hand and slipped the diamond ring off her finger. Sarah just watched as I took the only valuable thing she had left, and the tears started flowing again. She was used to living a lavish lifestyle on my dime, so I knew things must be tough for her now. Just returning this to its rightful owner, I said. That's fair, right? I was just quoting the same words she had used online. I closed the door, and through the peephole, I saw her standing there frozen for a long moment before finally walking away, looking completely defeated. A little while later, I heard another noise at the door. What now? I muttered, pulling the door open just a crack. It was Ethan. He bowed deeply and apologized in a hoarse voice. Daniel, I'm so sorry. I was stunned. So this was a coordinated attack. Ethan swore up and down. I'll never bother you and Sarah again. I promise. She really loves you, man. We've both done a lot of soul searching. Please, can you just drop the lawsuit? Don't call me that. It's disgusting, I said. Sarah's actually younger than me. So technically, I should be calling you my junior. I slammed the door in his face. There was no way I was dropping the lawsuit. This punk slept with my fiancée, and now he had the audacity to hope I'd get back with Sarah just so I could keep bankrolling their lifestyle. I blocked every member of the Thompson family. From now on, they could talk to my lawyer. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson started up with their old tricks again, calling me from different numbers, moaning and groaning in pain. Son-in-law, my heart is acting up again. You need to call that specialist from Johns Hopkins to make a house call. My arthritis is killing me, Daniel. You need to get that acupuncturist you mentioned to come over today. I was lounging on a beach chair in Miami, and I lazily replied, that specialist? He's based in Switzerland. You'll have to fly there to get an appointment. As for the acupuncturist, that's easy. Just pay his fee up front, and I'm sure he'll send someone over. And I'm not your son-in-law anymore. Go ask Ethan to pay for it." When Mr. and Mrs. Thompson realized their guilt trip wasn't working and I wasn't paying, they finally stopped calling. They knew what they were doing from the start. My family was much wealthier than theirs, and they were afraid of being looked down upon. So they made a point of trying to control me and constantly belittling my parents. Even though my parents disapproved of Sarah, they saw how much I loved her and tolerated our relationship. They never once treated her with disrespect. I, on the other hand, had to put up with endless grief from her family. After ending that toxic relationship, I finally realized how liberating life could be. But of course, Sarah wouldn't give up that easily. She showed up again, this time with a pregnancy test report. "Daniel, I'm pregnant." "Oh," I said, shrugging. "It's definitely not mine." Sarah grabbed my arm. "The baby is yours." I stopped and stared at her, confused. Sarah stammered, "I haven't had my period in 3 months. For the first 2, I just thought my cycle was off. But I went to the doctor yesterday, and they said I'm a little over 3 months pregnant." I felt a headache coming on. It was true. The last time Sarah and I had been intimate was a little over 3 months ago. It was her birthday. I had rented out an entire theme park for her, and we watched a huge fireworks show. Sarah had been so moved that she was actually affectionate with me for once. But I distinctly remember being careful. As for Ethan, he had only been back in the country for 2.5 months. Was it possible I was actually going to be a father? Sarah rested a hand on her slightly rounded stomach. "I just wanted to let you know. This is our child, and I have no intention of getting rid of it." I was silent for a moment, casually tapping on my phone. Then I smiled. "All right, I'll take responsibility for my child." Her goal achieved, a spark returned to Sarah's eyes. "So, are we back together now?" I nodded. Sarah continued. "During the pregnancy, I'll need someone to look after me, prepare nutritious meals 3 times a day." "Of course," I said. "Hire a few good nurses to take care of you." I played along, pretending not to see the greed flashing in her eyes. The second Sarah left, I called a friend of mine who's an OBGYN at Cedars-Sinai. He's an old friend, and he had been at the disastrous wedding reception. He was actually about to call me to tell me Sarah was pregnant. Her parents had been with her for the checkup. "Are you sure she's only 2 months along?" I asked. "Positive," he said. "I wouldn't lie to you, man. That kid is definitely the boy toys, no question." He paused. "Wait, don't tell me she's trying to pass it off as yours." I gritted my teeth. You guessed it, just as I suspected. Sarah was truly desperate, trying to pass off someone else's baby as mine. Just then, Sarah sent me a screenshot of an invoice. "Honey, I've hired 5 full-time nurses. This is a Miller baby, after all. We can't be too careful. You need to wire me the money. You said you'd take care of it." 5 nurses? She really thought she was royalty. Her bank statement showed she still had over $1 million in her account, but she refused to pay me back. An idea formed in my mind, and I sent her a voice message. "Don't worry. As long as it's my biological child, I will absolutely take care of everything. Sarah, cash flow is a little tight at the company this month. Just hold on to the invoices, and I'll reimburse you as soon as things free up." The typing bubble on her end appeared and disappeared for a long time. Sarah was trying to figure out my angle, but in the end, she decided to back down. "Okay, but you better not back out of this." Huh. I hoped she wasn't the one who would be backing out. Over the next few months, Sarah would periodically ask for money, and I'd always use the excuse that business was slow. I'd have cheap gifts sent to her house with notes about how busy I was, and she slowly started to believe me. "I have to go. Got to earn money for this baby," I'd say before hanging up our video calls, my face aching from fake smiling. I kept up the act for almost 3 months. By then, Sarah had burned through nearly all her savings and was getting visibly desperate. Every conversation we had was about one thing: money. Of course, I wasn't going to give her a dime. I packed a suitcase, went to LAX, and boarded an overnight flight to London. If I hadn't needed to take over our company's European division, I would have loved to see the look on Sarah's face when her little scheme finally imploded. The next day, Sarah called, her voice shrill with panic. "Daniel, my parents went to your office, and your assistant said you've left the country. Is that true?" "It is," I said, panning my camera to show her the view of a medieval castle from my window. Sarah's face twitched, and she completely lost it. "You bastard. You promised you would provide for this child, and now you're just abandoning us," she screamed. "I signed year-long contracts with the nurses. You haven't paid me back for anything. I'm drowning in credit card debt." I let her scream until she was exhausted. Then I spoke slowly and clearly. I said I would provide for the child on the condition that the child was mine. I have it on tape, you know. Did you really expect me to raise your and Ethan's baby? At those words, Sarah's panic was audible. How did you know? As soon as the words left her mouth, I could hear her parents in the background gasp. What? The baby isn't his. Mrs. Thompson started crying. Then I heard a loud slap. Mr. Thompson was furious. You disgraceful girl. I told you to stay away from that scumbag Vance, but you wouldn't listen. You were the ones who told me to find a way to trap him. Sarah shrieked back. Why am I the only one getting blamed for this? Sarah was sobbing. Her family was screaming at each other in her VIP hospital room. It's always entertaining to watch a family of thieves fall out. After settling everything back in the States, my life returned to normal. It was calm, like a vast ocean, with the occasional happy surprise. I met someone new, an illustrator named Chloe. With her, for the first time, I experienced what a relationship built on equality and mutual respect felt like. We didn't have to talk about money or family assets. We just did things that made us both happy. Whenever I bought her a nice purse, she would shyly accept it, then immediately start planning to get me a gift of equal value. It made me feel like I was doing something wrong, but she would wrap her arms around my waist and comfort me. Daniel, it's the thought that counts most. My heart fluttered in a way it hadn't for a long time. Her love was pure, with no ulterior motives. She had an ex-boyfriend who reached out once, wanting to meet up for old time's sake, and she shut him down immediately. She sent him a photo of the two of us, telling him she was very happy now. He never messaged her again. Why compare that to Sarah's behavior? I felt so grateful that I'd gotten out when I did. Chloe's parents are wonderful to me too. Her mom brings me homemade soup at the office, and her dad invites me out for golf and fishing trips. They treat me like their own son. I hope my life can always be this good. The next time I heard anything about Sarah, it was from trending news article. The childhood photo of her and Ethan, the one she posted to prove their innocence, had been saved by someone before she deleted her account. Months later, one of Ethan's father's creditors saw the photo online and used it to track him down and sue him. Apparently, while he was stringing Sarah along, he was also juggling several other wealthy women. The moment he found out Sarah was pregnant, he vanished. The only reason he made that grand gesture at the wedding was because he knew Sarah and I were truly over, and his access to my money was gone. His plan was to secure her devotion and then go after the dowry I had given her. But without me as her personal ATM, Sarah guarded her own money fiercely, and Ethan's true colors quickly began to show. Now, not only were his father's creditors after him, but all the women he'd scammed were determined to make him pay. With two different groups hunting him down, Ethan eventually ended up in prison. The moment he was sentenced, I bet he regretted coming back to the States to chase his one true love. The most surprising part of the story, though, was Sarah. Against her parents' wishes, she took a gamble and had the baby, a girl. Then she had paternity tests done, one using my DNA and one using Ethan's. Unfortunately for her, the test proved what I already knew. The baby's father was in prison. Sarah had a complete breakdown in the hospital, screaming that the report had to be fake. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson didn't even look at their new granddaughter. They packed their bags, moved back to their hometown, and disowned Sarah completely. The glamorous sugar mama, who had flaunted a sport car online just a year ago, was now a broke, haggard single mother. It caused quite a stir online. Showing off your love with the wrong person can really backfire. Unlike her, I post pictures of the love of my life on Facebook every day. I know for certain she's the one I'll spend the rest of my life with.